Greetings, fellow makers! This is the Real Malky. Welcome back to my factory. Today, we're going to be working on one of the most important parts of the Epyon Gundam cosplay. The backpack. Right here, lots of little details and cool stuff. Now, I know what you're thinking. Malky, the most important part is the wings. Kind of. The wings are easily the most awesome part. But the most important part is the piece that holds the wings on my back, which will be the backpack. So, here we go. Okay, for this build, we're going to need stuff. Start with our pattern pieces. I basically just imagine the backpack bigger and drew it out. And then cut it out. We'll also need some foam. This is 8mm foam I got from Michaels. This is 2mm high density foam I got from TNT Cosplay Supply. Sadly, they are no longer in business. So I will find other high density foam and put that in the link with all this other stuff. We'll also need some cutting tools. Box cutter, Exacto knife, circle cutter, this thing is awesome, and a bevel cutter, as well as that's going to help us cut out all the foam pieces. I may use my bandsaw for some of it, but the bandsaw is optional. You can do this whole thing with just one of these, and one of these. Again, this is semi-optional, but it's hard to cut a perfect circle by hand. So, we'll also be using large contact cement to glue all this stuff together. And because this stuff is horribly toxic, we'll be using a respirator. And we'll be using a heat gun to seal the foam, as well as a rotary tool to clean up any rough edges. While we're using the rotary tool, we'll be wearing a dust mask, and a face shield, because foam dust flies everywhere. Literally, my workshop is covered in this stuff. So, you'll want to protect your eyes, nose, mouth, and lungs, because the fumes this stuff gives off is not good to breathe. Hey, I think that's everything. If I forgot anything else, I will mention it as we go on. So, let's get started. I'm going to start by tracing the pattern pieces onto the foam, like this. It's fairly simple. I'm just using a marker to draw the pieces onto the foam, so that way I know where to cut. And we'll continue doing this until we have traced out all the pattern pieces. Yes, all of them. There's quite a few. So we'll be back when that's all done. What I'm doing now is transferring the letters from the pattern piece and any arrows onto the foam piece. That way I know which edge gets attached to which one, and whether or not they should be cut at an angle. All of these are going to get cut at an angle, and you'll see why in a bit. Alright, going to start adding the accent pieces or detail pieces, whatever you want to call it. For this, I'll be using 6mm foam. And now we're just tracing the pieces like you did with the 8mm foam. And yeah. For these, I think I will use my bandsaw to cut them out and make sure they're all nice, clean cuts and all that stuff. Alright. I had to cut out this piece so that I can glue this piece onto this piece, and then I'll use the bandsaw to cut the whole thing out, and then I'll glue detail pieces into here, but they'll be on top of here. You'll see what I mean after the whole thing is glued together. Okay, now you'd think that after all the pieces have been traced out, it is time to cut them out using Exacto knife, bevel cutter, box cutter, bandsaw, and you will be wrong. Now it is time to heat seal the pieces. But the foam gives off a somewhat toxic fume, so we'll be wearing a respirator to protect our lungs, because you don't want to breathe this stuff in. Okay. Now, we heat seal the foam. What this is doing is it is sealing all the pores on the surface of the foam. So that way, your paint or whatever chemical you use to seal the foam will stay on top of the foam and not sink into it. And it's kind of hard to tell on white foam, but the part that's sealed looks shiny. And I'll get out some black foam to show you what I mean. Okay. None of this foam has been sealed yet. See how it looks slightly different over here than it does over here? It also feels different, and it's easier to leave an impression. So that's what sealing foam does. And we're just going to keep doing this until it's all done. Alright. Now, for the part you're actually wanting to see. Time to cut out the pieces. Now, you'll notice all these arrows and all this stuff all over the place. That is to help me know which way the blade goes into the foam. And the arrow going this way means the foam goes in, the blade goes in this way. If it goes out, away from the edge, the blade goes this way, away from the edge. Alright. And now I'll just show you what I mean. Just cutting foam pieces. I usually make all the inward cuts first, and then I'll flip the foam around and do all the outward cuts. And we're just going to keep doing this until it's all cut out. So, we'll be back when that's done. Now it's time for the gluing part of the tutorial. Time to stack these two pieces onto each other, like so. To do that, I'll be using large contact cement, which means also wearing a respirator. Now, what I'm going to do is put glue all over this piece and almost all over this piece. I'll not be gluing between these lines right here. So that way, when I go to cut it out, I'll have a nice strong bond here and here, but there will be no glue here. So, here we go. The way contact cement works is you brush it on to both pieces you want to attach, wait for it to fully dry. That can be anywhere from about 5 to 10. I usually wait about 15 minutes. And then when both pieces are dry, you carefully line it up because you only get one chance. Because once the contact cement's fixed to itself, you can pull it apart, but that will just tear your foam. And most of the time, you don't want to do that. So make very sure your pieces are where you want them to be. Alright, and we're going to keep applying glue to this piece and this piece. And we'll come back when it's time to attach them. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes and pieces are dry. So now it's time to put them together like this. And there we go. Now, in about an hour, I'll be able to cut this out using my bandsaw. So, we'll come back when it's time to do that. Like that. Alright, so it's been a few days. I've been kind of busy, got a part-time job, so that kind of splits my focus a little bit. But right now, we're back to the Epyon backpack, specifically where it's going to connect to the back. What I've got here are snaps will provide a mechanical lock, and magnets that will provide a magnetic lock. What I've done is put some contact cement here, here, as well as here and here. And now I'm going to put another coat because the entire backpack will be held on by these snaps and these magnets. So I want to make sure there's a nice strong bond there. So here we go. And as we all know, when you're dealing with contact cement, you wear a respirator and work in a well-ventilated area. Now, according to every filmsmith I've ever watched a tutorial on, or from, the first coat of contact cement can sink into the pores of your foam. Well, that can be helpful. It doesn't really provide that great a look. So this coat is going to stay on the surface and provide that much more strength. So we're going to do that to these now. Alright. The contact cement here and here, as well as here and here, has dried, and we're ready to attach. Now, you'll notice I'm not taking these off and then attaching them. No, I'm going to leave them connected to the, I'm going to leave the snap parts connected to each other and then stick them down. So that way I know that everything lines up the way it should. And yeah. Now it's time to cut out the pieces that the wings will connect into. For that, we'll be using PVC couplers and PVC pipe. To cut out this hole, I will need to use the circle cutter. Also, I need to cut and need to make sure it's lined up in the center of the thing, which is why I have these lines here. To do that, I just folded the template in half like this, and then like this. So that way I know this is the center of the piece. Now I'll be putting this piece right here, right there. Yeah, that way I know everything's lined up properly. Now the way this thing works is you crank the handle and the blade slowly cuts through the foam. I may need a new blade for this thing. And then we crank the handle the other way to bring the blade back up. Like that. And now we just pull out the circle, and to test this just push in like that, and there we go. And now I'm going to cut out the other one the same way. I have been building up the sides of the backpack. Now, it is time to install the PVC pipe, which will go across the back here. But before I can do that, I need to glue the pipe fitting, the coupler pipe pieces, this one and this one, into place. So that doesn't happen. Now, I've already glued this one in, and it seems pretty straightforward. This stuff is not like contact cement. You just brush it on. Go surfaces. So, but it does stink, so make sure you're wearing a respirator and working in a well-ventilated area. My garage door is open and my respirator is on. So yeah, make sure to protect your lungs when doing this. Alright, that's done. And now, because it has to line up exactly, I want to make sure that it's on there correctly. Like that. And now I'm going to play it somewhat safe and wait for this to cure. A couple minutes. And yeah, I will continue the rest later. So I've applied some contact cement along the edges here and here, basically all over this place. And come here, this one here. But since there's so many edges and contact cement is already dried, if I were to attach it together right now, it probably just wouldn't line up right. So I'm going to lay down some paper towels. That way I can decide where I want the contact cement to actually make contact. This way I can attach it one edge at a time. I'm using my finger to make sure the edges line up. And yeah. And just work my way around the entire backpack and slowly, carefully attach the pieces together. All right, and now the backpack, this part. Now that this is done, well, mostly done, it is ready to connect to the back of the torso. this. And now, because the magnets and snaps line up much better, we can do that. And it stays in place. Just a little bit of work left to do, a little cleanup with the rotary tool, but I'm going to do that tomorrow. So this is the end of this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share if you want. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments section. I will be happy to read those and get back to you. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.